Hello everyone, I'm on to this week's lap guide tutorial. This is for GTS for week 11 here at Nurburgring. This week we're using a Ferrari for the hot lap, so let's have a look around. So, nice long run up to turn 1 here at Nurburgring. Lucky enough, on the entry into here, you want to be kind of aiming already to using this reference here, the 150 board and the 100 board. In the racing, I can imagine you probably will be lifting off a little bit into it to save fuel, because it's quite easy to do around here for that. But in the racing, aim for this 150 board is always your main key. You can get away, as you see on the hot lap. You can actually brake where the arm coat ends here, where the runoff starts, like this little bit of runoff here. Anywhere between the 150 and here, absolutely fine for braking. Realistically though, you want to be braking a nice straight line, and you're aiming to get your left wheels on this outside curb here. On the way in, on this hot lap, you see I mentioned, so hot lap and qualifying, you probably get away just for the 100 board. In an actual race full stint, I'd probably say you lift off a little bit earlier and brake a bit earlier, but again, no problem at all. But the key thing with the braking for turn 1, and it's kind of a common trait at Nurburgring, you've got to brake a little bit softer than you actually think you need to. It's very easy for such as T1 and the Hairpin to over-commit to it on the way in, thinking because a big stop. The problem when you do that around here, it really hurts the left front, and as soon as you burn the left front up, you have no grip for the rest of the stint. Also, as well with turn 1, you want to roll a lot of speed into the corner because of how it falls away. If you stop the car too much on the way in, you get no rotation at the apex. So to counter that, what you want to do is you want to be braking, as Alex does here. You want to be braking around 50-60% at most in the Ferrari. Some cars, yes, you will use more. The NSX, for instance, this week you brake 75% into turn 1, so it will give or take depending on the car. But normally you're aiming for a nice medium braking trace, 60%, 70% at most. With that, you're well out of the ABS, so you can carry the most speed into the corner. So you trail brake that all the way in. You see the 50 board here on the outside. You see we're cut fully over onto the left hand side here just to help widen the entry up and the approach to the curb of turn 1. You don't have to worry about it too much. There's no real time loss or gain by doing it this wide. But the biggest thing, for me anyway, personally, I always like to try and go at this corner a little bit earlier because you want to cut over this inside curb. It gives you so much rotation, and it also just frees a whole exit up for you at the same time. If you miss this curb completely, you're driving a long way out on the exit, and you lose a lot of time because of that. But tip it in quite early, slow releasing the brake. You want to have a decent amount of trail braking on as you go into the corner, so you'll be aiming between where the bollard here on the inside is and the normal red and white curb here. So you want to get your wheels well into this. If I go to chase, like Alex does on this lap, he's pretty much in here, no problem. You can actually cut a bit more than this. You normally get the slowdown or the off track when you actually go through the bollard here or clip this bollard. So that's your reference. You can be right up against this. If I go to far chase, you see a bit better. So cutting fully over this. What this allows you to do then, it keeps, when the car's compressing, you have to wait on power a little bit, but then it keeps you a bit neater on the exit and you don't run the risk of running too far wide. So you pick the power up once it lands. See now the front of the car is fully compressed into the ground. From here, pick up the power as you release the lock. Very important, you bounce it. It's very easy to smash on the throttle a little bit too early in some cars and get a weird slip on the exit. So just bounce it, then crawl it back up to 100% once you've got the majority of the steering lock off. That way it gives you a nice clean exit up to turn 2. As I mentioned, you're well away from the outside here. If you're out here, you've gone into turn 1 way too fast and you've actually missed a corner on the exit. Because of that, you have to travel from here back over to the right hand side. You put a lot of stress on the left rear as well when you're out here. So the tighter you are on the exit, the middle to right, the better it'll be. Bring it straight back over to the right. You want to try and get the car over, so you have a darker patch here. You want to be crossing this line here. You don't have to go all the way out to the white line. Just keep it over to the right hand side. Just helps angle the approach into turn 2. Reference wise, there really isn't one. You just kind of got to go with it. What I find, you want to try and aim for the middle of this curve here, coming up in turn 2. So what Biko does here, he tips it in quite aggressively, which is absolutely fine. As soon as you're over this line here, that's when you want to start thinking about lifting off and braking. So you want to drive in naturally quite aggressive on the way in. With that, just trail brake ever so slightly, 5-6%. Trail brake it in. And then you see mid-corner, we're fully up on the curb here on the inside from Biko's perspective. But this is absolutely fine as what you want to be doing. But the biggest thing now, start bringing the power back in and just feed it in. And then once you're near the exit, then 100% power. With that, gives you a nice clean exit, and it just puts you just around here. If you're on the runoff now and you're out here, normally you've just got on the throttle a little bit too aggressive and too early here. And what happens then is you just sit holding the steering lock on the exit and you just burn the front up. So just keep that in mind. Just be a bit wary of this. Bring it all the way out to the outside. Aiming for this white line. From here, you want to be already thinking about bringing the car back over for turn 3. Quite tricky braking, very easy to overshoot it, so be a little bit earlier than you think on the brakes. And again, you'll see the soft braking on the way in, like 40-50%. And what you're going to do is early turning. And what you want to do, you want to miss the curb initially, and you're aiming, you just about see this extra line here. You're aiming to get your left wheels here, because what happens then is you'll notice the car hooks on this curb, and you actually just follow the curb around more naturally. If you're just on the curb around the outside, you're just holding the extra bit of steering lock, and you're having to actually almost force the car to rotate, which you can get away with for a few laps, but for the majority of the run, if you do that, you will end up killing the tyres. So it's very easy, up on the curb, nice and light, but around here, you see left wheel's just coming on this bit of curb, if I go to chase, aiming for this little bit here. So like where the drainage cover is here, like this gridding is absolutely perfect. And what you want to do is from this point, you want to be now thinking about getting back on the power to help rotate the car over to the left hand side to set up for the right coming up for turn 4. So what I would do is, Alex does it quite nicely. So you see where this like line ends here. Around here, start bringing the power in, but be nice and progressive, similar to turn 1. Just be nice and gentle on the exit. No sudden jabs of throttle. All that will do is just cause the rear to slide. Be nice and patient, hold it. And with that, you see these lines here. You got this one, and then there's one over here. You're well over to the left-hand side of the track. If I go chase now, you see we're well over to the left-hand side of the track here. We're not running the risk of being over this line, making this curb super tight, and you have to like, back out of it when you hit it. What you're doing here is you're just setting this whole exit up for turn 4. So bring it over, see 100% power, tip it in. As you just approach the curb, lift off a little bit. Like balance the power as you go over the curb, and then once you land on the curb, 100% power, let the car run out, and just like cross over here on the exit. Then go up to a T6 and 7, because apparently this is turn 5 here, so up to a chicane. Easy reference to always remember, cones on the outside, so just towards the end of these last cones, so quite an easy reference. Soft brake again, same as turn 3. You want to really like attack the entry into here and just trail brake it in, tip it in nice and early, trail brake it all the way in to the middle point of the corner. So we're well into the corner now. Now towards the end of this curb here on the inside, bring the power back up, but balance it. If you go to 100% here, you just unnecessarily a little bit too far over to the right hand side, which then makes the right coming up just a little bit too tight. But you want to maximise some throttle through here just to carry a bit more speed, and obviously you'll gain a bit of lap time by doing that. As you see, we cross over. Alex does actually go to 100% throttle here, just balance it. But you see, your left wheels are just on this line here, a little bit away from the white line here on the outside. And with that, it just allows you then to angle the next right coming up a bit easier. Because if you're against the curb on the way in, you don't really have any free rotation. You've got to put a bit more lock on and stop the car too much. So bring it over to the left a little bit. But it's very key. Brake way before this curb here on the inside. And it's super soft. Nice and soft. And just build it up on the way in. And you're just a little bit away from the curb. And just tip it in. But you want to be nice and tight to this curb through the corner. As like around here, the car like digs back into the ground a little bit more and rotates for you on exit when you get back on the power. If you miss this curb a little bit and you're just like here, you just understeer a bit too much on the exit. So just be a bit careful, but keep it nice and tight. Mid to exit, power, balance it, then 100%. Roll it out wide. Then up to the hairpin. Again, a nice easy reference. Here on the outside, you've got this like gridding. As soon as you cross into this, just be a bit careful of the off track here. It's very easy to get when you're not paying attention. But on this gridding, hit this gridding. You as you can see if we go to chase, it just widens the corner up ever so slightly for us. See, like, if we're just on the white line, our car's here. With this, it just frees the entry up for us in the braking. But as soon as we cross onto this gridding, braking, again, it's like a medium brake, but you want to like build up into the corner, so you're not slowing it down too much initially. Tack on the way in, you see you build it up to about 65-70%. Turning quite early, because you're aiming to actually apex it initially quite early, then let the car naturally run into the middle of the track, and then force the V off on the exit, which then gives you the best like traction possible. So you want to go in quite early, get nice and close to the white line, then actually kiss the white line on the way in, so I go to chase again. So we're on the white line now, on the way in. Let the car naturally roll out. See there, Alex has a little snap of oversteer on the way in, just because he's thrown that extra little bit of speed into the corner. With that, it then throws the car up a little bit wide, nothing more than past this like little line here. Very, very subtle. But you just bring the car ever so slightly away, and then when you try and come back on yourself, just build the power in, till you're basically coming back to the white line. And as soon as you get the steering lock off towards the exit, now 100% power, and you commit to the exit. If you're bouncing around on the curb here, power again too early, so just be a bit more patient. All the run off, up to the Schumacher S. Key, go up on top of this curb, as shown here. Chase. Half and half. Any more than this, you do run the risk of the car bottoming, so half and half is absolutely fine. Avoid this curb. It's very easy to like clip this curb. If you're clipping this curb consistently, just wait a fraction more before you turn in. It's very simple. You just don't want it bouncing over the top of this curb. Big key, cut over the right here. Just don't dip a wheel on the gravel, otherwise you'll get the slowdown. But also too, with the new gravel this season, the car just stops and you lose like a tenth from here to T11. So just be a bit careful of this. And over to the next sector. Again, nicely laid out for us. 100 board here is going to be a braking point. So very key, get right up over this white line. You can use a little bit of a astroturf, but you do run the risk of getting a slowdown, or not a slowdown, off track, sorry. So just be a bit careful of that, but just keep the car fully over. See Alex braking just before the 100. Again, it's quite an aggressive brake for what the corner is, but what you want to do is, with the aggressive braking, you see this white line here way before the 50 board. With this, you want to use that as your reference to turn in, because you want to be up on this inside curb to hook the car up, similar to turn 3 and 4. So from here, early turn, you see we're already aiming for this curb on the inside. Just slowly releasing the brake pressure on the way in. Again, missed the first bit, aiming for this second part or the middle of the curb here. Get right up over the top. Very, very important, this one, especially around here for lap time. This is probably the one where you gain the most for. And most time in raw lap time, be it in consistency over a stint or on a hot lap. Very important you get up on this curb. You see with Alex is fully over it and he brings in the power very early. Just bounce it until you fall off the curb. Then 100 again once you've got the steering lock off. Remember that, that's very important. Always get back on 100% power once you can start releasing the steering lock. And you should not really end up any wider than this. If you're crossing over this, again, you're just going a little bit too fast. And all what you're doing then is you're travelling again from here back across here, and you'll actually never really get back over to the left, which then really compromises you into the right, which then obviously coming up to a long straight just kills all momentum. So you want to keep the car, because you want to be bringing the car way back over to the left hand side here, aiming straight over to the white line. And just before you get to the white line, unfortunately there's no real reference, but just before you get to the white line, tiny little brake, like 10%. Just aim, because you're aiming for like this part of the track here, the middle of the corner. Trail brake it all the way in, and then as soon as you start getting into the curb or next to the curb, on power, hook up right up against the curb, hold it, then 100% power as early as you can to maximise your onto the straight. Again, be very careful of the gravel here. With this season, you dip a wheel here, you will bog down dramatically up the straight. So even if you have to wait a little bit to make sure you don't get into the gravel, if you lose 300ths here, you'd rather do that than risk it and dip a wheel here. One, get an off track, which you can do, or two, get this like massive decrease of power on the exit because you dip a wheel. Then from here, just all the way up to his final chicane. Cut over the right curb here. Again, nice labelled out for us. All the boards here on the right. You're aiming just before the 50 board as your braking point here, so quite a late entry in braking. Pretty smooth on the brakes. Into here, I would say you can use a little bit more brake, you can be a bit more aggressive on it, but if you're aggressive on the brake into here, you will feel the car move around more. Very car dependent. The Mercedes into here, for instance, you could actually go a lot more aggressive, like at the 50 board, use 25-30% more brake, so 60% brake, and then flick it in, no problem. The Ferrari is very nervous on the nose, as Alex you'll see through here, it gets quite loose. So you just be a bit smooth. You've got to be very smooth on the brake in some cars, and you can be more aggressive on braking others. But the general philosophy is 50 meter board in, build the brake up on the way, up to 50%, and then just, there's kind of no real reference for this, but like as soon as you go over the crest, you want to be turning in very early, because you're aiming to just ever so slightly clip this inside curb here. You see the car bounce around, still trail braking it in, but you want to be just on the power as you hit this inside curb. So you're just going to get nice and close to this inside curb here. You can cut it ever so slightly, but I wouldn't do it every lap because you can get the off track quite easily. Very, very key, you get up as close as you can to this inside curb. As the more you can cut on the way in, the easier the right is. If you miss this fully, this right is too tight on the way in. But you want to build the power up very early. So see, once the car's gone over the bumps, bring the power in. You can go up to 100% here, no problem, but you can also do what Alex done and just balance it. Cut over the right, very key, cut over this one. Let the car naturally run out to the outside here, up on the outside curb. Just going to be very cautious on here. Any aggressive peaking of the brake, so if you smack the brake at 60% initially straight away, the nose will dive into the ground, and then the car just goes straight here because you're fully up on the curb. So just be a bit careful of that. Brake in a nice straight line, come off the curb as early as you can. When you tip it in, you trail brake it in, do your last downshift off the curb, because you want to be aiming to get nice and close to this barrier on the inside here. So you're going to miss it initially, the car understeers on the way in, and then it bites mid-corner. As it starts to bite, get nice and close to the inside barrier. Once you're alongside this barrier, start bringing the power in, feed it, and then towards the exit, so once this curb's out of vision, from here, 100% power, run it out wide, and it gives you a nice clean run to the line. And that is a lap for Nurburgring this week, for week 11.